Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a day in my life. This day was a Wednesday, and so Wednesdays are different for me than usual. I'm sorry if you hear stuff in the background, that's my daughter. She's playing. But anyways, Wednesdays are different for me than usual because typically I will, those are my heavy clinical days, Wednesdays and Thursdays, but especially Wednesdays. Because my husband is off of work on Wednesdays. He works 2 12-hour shifts and then 2 8-hour shifts. Honestly, his 8-hour shifts often turn into 9 or 10-hour shifts because he is a pharmacist. But so he works those shifts so that he can have off in the middle of the week, and that gives me the ability to really have a day to focus on my clinical cases and stuff. So in my last video, I talked about how I usually will go ahead and pump, and then my daughter wakes up and I make her breakfast. But I also said that sometimes I have to pump while making her breakfast because she wakes up early. That was the case on this day. I woke up at 6 a.m. thinking, okay, I can pump at 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I can pump at 6 and she'll be asleep until like 7:30, 7 o'clock. But she woke up at 6, and so I barely got a chance to really attach the pump to me before she woke up. So I was like, let me get her breakfast together then, and then I'll bring her downstairs. My son also woke up at the same time. So I was like, yeah, he does this weird thing where he grunts instead of cries. I mean, he eventually cries, but he mostly grunts at first. And then so I was like, I don't want him to wake her up, so I brought him downstairs with me, but then she ended up waking up anyways. So yeah, now I'm like multitasking, as is the life of a mom of young kids. So I'm getting her breakfast together. She typically eats oatmeal and a banana, and he is crying because he's also hungry. So it's just a fun time this morning for me. I have to pump and feed him at the same time. My daughter, she at this point is downstairs and she's eating her breakfast, and I think you'll probably see a little bit of like her coming because she likes to say hi to me and play. So like I said, most mornings I listen to my devotion and a sermon, so that's why I have my iPad there, because I was getting ready to do that. My husband, he was off this day, but he was out. He thought that the kids would still be sleeping, so he actually left early to grab some stuff for breakfast, and nope, they woke up. So I had to multitask this morning. But anyways, I was saying Wednesdays are my heavy clinical days because he's home all day long. So that means I can schedule as many appointments as I want to all day long. And this day I had 6 appointments scheduled. Every therapist is different. Some people like to have like maybe 4, max a day. Because of my schedule is, dependent on, because I'm watching my kids most of the time, my schedule is dependent a lot on my husband's schedule. And so I don't get to, space my cases out that way. But I still think that 6 is not bad. I used to, before I had kids, when I was an intern, I used to try and pack as many people as I think I had 8 sessions in a day sometimes. So, to each their own. But anyways, so on Mondays, I usually don't have cases. Maybe I might squeeze one in the middle of the day while the kids are sleeping, but that's very rare, and that's only for certain clients if I feel like they're high needs clients. But that doesn't happen often. It's happened like one time, I think, so far, since I started my private practice. So yeah, like I said, it doesn't happen often. I try and put people on days where I know my husband's home or that my kids are with their grandparents. So Mondays are days where I usually don't do any clinical work other than maybe documentation or, some case management stuff, or maybe making some phone calls. But this is a Wednesday, like I said. So this day, like you can see, I'm feeding my son, pumping, I'm talking to my daughter, or am I talking to my husband? I don't know. At some point he comes home, and so I start talking to him too. But basically, yeah. So I actually ended up having 2 cancellations that day. And so I only ended up having 4 clients. And that does happen quite a bit in private practice. So that's another reason that I like to have like a lot of people scheduled on my clinical days, because cancellations happen. And I would rather like to have, more people to make up for that, if that makes sense. I learned from my supervisor in my internship year that if you have a cancellation, you should like call other clients and see if they want to move their session up in the day, or if they want to move their session to like a different day, like the day that you can call them and say, hey, I have availability today at this time. I know we meet tomorrow, but I wondered if you want to blah, blah, blah. I don't like doing that because for a couple of reasons. First of all, if I have a cancellation, that's an opportunity for me to just do some self-care or to catch up on clinical documentation. So that's typically what I do if I have a cancellation. There's always something to be doing when you're a therapist, like in my opinion, because for example, I was trained in DBT. If you don't know what that is, it's dialectical behavioral therapy. And it basically is a behavioral therapy that focuses on like self-regulation. So helping people to learn how to self-regulate. It was created, I believe, for borderline personality disorder. But it works well for depression, anxiety, trauma, and basically everything. So I was trained in that in February before I had my son. And so I have been doing some DBT skills with some of my clients, and I've been working on creating a DBT program with the place that I'm contracted with, because I asked, hey, do we have a DBT skills group, because I want to do DBT with some of my clients. And she said no, but if you want to make a program, we can definitely do that, because I have clients that I think would be really great for that too. So I said, okay. So now I have to, I have to like pour through my manual a little bit and try and remember like how I go about doing that. But the DBT training manual is so exhaustive and it's very comprehensive. I don't think I meant exhaustive. Oh yes, I did mean exhaustive. It's very comprehensive as well. Like, you can basically follow it to a T, and I think that's what it was created for. I was dancing with my dog right there, in case you're wondering what I was doing. I like to mess with my dog. But anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, so they create the training manual to be really like easy to follow. So it's really not hard. It's just a matter of having to iron out a few things, like who am I targeting with this DBT group, what population, and which schedule we should follow, and things like that. And I also want to work with somebody who also is trained in DBT, because I believe that groups should be run with 2 therapists, not just 1. Anyway, this morning, so if you're wondering why did I have a plastic bag over my head, I was doing a pre-poo overnight. And what that is basically keeps your hair moisturized overnight while you're while you're sleeping. Well, it doesn't have to be while you're sleeping. So pre-poo basically keeps your hair moisturized even after a shampoo. I like doing pre-poos because it keeps my hair like fluffy and moisturized and nice and whatever. I definitely notice a difference in the feeling of my hair being more dry if I don't do a pre-poo. So I always pre-poo my hair. This day was 100 degrees outside, and my original plan was to do a twist out, but the summers here in Wisconsin are very humid. So it was 100 degrees and humid, so I was like, I am going to do a wash and go, because that is a gel heavy style, and that'll at least hold my hair, more than a twist out would. So that's what I decided to do. But yeah, pre-poo, basically my pre-poo just consists of a cheap like dollar store VO5 or Suave conditioner with a little bit of hair oil, and what else do I put in there? Sometimes I put, Shea Moisture has this protein treatment that's like a yogurt based one. Sometimes I put that in there too. I think I did that night. So then a pre-poo, I just rinse it out, and then this was a co-wash day, so I really didn't focus on deep conditioning or anything like that. I just rinsed my scalp with that stuff that I showed you, a curl girl or something like that, activator or whatever it's called. But it's basically an apple cider vinegar rinse for your scalp, and so I use that. And I use the leave-in conditioner to condition my hair. And then so here I'm just doing my wash and go. This is not a beauty vlog, so I'm not going to go into detail about what I do. And I'm not a beauty vlog person. So anyway, this is what I ended up wearing that day. I did take the blazer off because, like I said, it was 100 degrees, but I did bring it with me to the office because it's usually really cold there. So I just wanted to make sure it looked right with the outfit, and it did. So I did bring it, but I ended up not wearing it at all, not once that day. So here I'm just getting, I think at this point it's probably, I think I'm pumping or about to pump. No, I'm pumping here. So it was probably 9 a.m. at this point. I was putting together the cloth diapers so that my husband would have those ready. He can do them himself, put them together, but I like the way that I put them together, and so I prefer to do. I was pumping, so I was like, I may as well just do this while I'm pumping. If you don't know, I cloth diapered my daughter for until she was about 2. Yeah, until she was 2. And she's 2.5 now. But I cloth diapered her, and basically you can keep your kid in the cloth diapers while you're potty training, but my daughter's tall and it didn't fit on her. And I also think psychologically that, like, they think it's, it's still a diaper, so why would I, not pee or poop in this? So I didn't use it for potty training, but I read somewhere that you could, but I just don't see why you would. I wish they had, like, really good, like, cloth diapering pull-ups. They don't, though. So we actually use disposable pull-ups. And I have these, like, training underwear from Amazon that I use on her, but because she was, the early stages of potty training, it's really, whatever. I think she could wear those now, but early on it was like, no, she was just peeing and pooping all the time. So I used the, 3-block potty training method from that lady who made that book, Oh Crap, Potty Training. I got it from that book, actually. I read that book before I potty trained her. And actually, that's not true. I tried to potty train her before reading the book by watching other people's YouTube videos on how they potty trained, but it didn't work for me. So then I was like, I have to read the book. So it didn't work for me because those people in their videos always say that they potty train their kid in 3 days. It's not a 3-day method, it's a 3-block method, and she says that in the book. So your kid can potty train in 3 days, but they might revert back to block 1 before the week is over. So it doesn't mean that just because you went through all the blocks that now your kid is completely potty trained. No siree, it does not mean that. So that's what confused me. I was like, it's day 3 and she's still not getting it. I'm like, nope, that's not how it goes. So don't feel discouraged if you are potty training and you're following YouTube video advice and it's not working for you. Those people, I don't know what it is about people, but when they're on social media, they just want to make it seem like, they've got their lives together, and they have all the secrets to things because they want views and all that stuff. And it's just not the truth. Okay? It's just not the truth. So read the book yourself, and then you make your own potty training stuff. But my daughter is doing great with potty training. So here I'm in the office, and basically I'm going to show you what it looks like later, but here I'm just getting ready for an intake. I had an intake with a child this day. It was the first time I was meeting this child, so it was an hour long. And basically, I'm just getting ready for that. The thing about being in a contract position, like having a contract, is it's great that they let you use their office. However, I have found, this is my second contract now, and I have found that a lot of these places don't have really good, like, play therapy or child therapy rooms, and I wish they did. And when I am at a point in my private practice where I can go out on my own and have enough money to have my own office space, I'm definitely going to have a dedicated space for children's sessions with full of toys and, you know, organized so it's not distracting to a kid with ADHD, but, you know, enticing enough to a child to where they're like, not like, what is this place, you know? So what I usually do is I keep a bunch of toys in the trunk of my car. Before I had this position, if you're new here, I was a nonprofit therapist working with children who were under guardianship, and they had a lot of trauma, so I mostly worked with childhood trauma, and I was an in-home therapist, so I kept a lot of toys in my trunk of my car because I was always driving to people's houses. So I just kept them there, and I still, you know, so when I do have a client now, I can just pull some toys out of my car before the session. But after that, I had the 2-hour gap between that and my next session, so I went home and made myself some lunch. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are my go-to lunch if I don't know what else I want to eat. They've been my go-to lunch since I was a child. Like, when I would get hungry as a kid, I would just make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. My dad always used to pack me those sandwiches for lunch as well, so it's just like always been part of my life, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Aria, you need to eat your oatmeal. She hears me saying it, so now she wants it, but you have oatmeal right there that you have not finished. So eat that. Anyways, the joys of motherhood. So I'm here eating. My husband took my daughter out to play, so nobody's home except me and the baby, and so I was just doing some documentation while I was eating. When you do every what is it called? Every clinic is different. So when you do a first session with somebody, you typically need to do a diagnostic assessment, which takes about, it depends on where you work. So my diagnostic assessments were at the place that I'm contracted with now really don't take that long, maybe 45 minutes. At another place that I was at when I was an intern, and then I worked there for a few months after my internship was over, that took me probably a good 2 hours to get through because it was so thorough. They wanted to know a deep, detailed history, which I'm not mad at. Like, that's a great thing. But it took me a long time to document that. So, I was just switching over my cloth wipes. I also use cloth wipes instead of disposable wipes because it saves me a lot of money and it's easy, and I think that it gets him a lot cleaner than a regular wipe. Anyways, here I am pumping again. That's my life. So what was I saying? So with this place though, their assessment doesn't take as long to do. And then so you have to do a diagnostic assessment. You also have to do a progress note. Where I worked previously, so not previously, but when I had my first contract position ever, which was my first job out of graduate school, we had to do a diagnostic assessment, an initial contact note, and a progress note. We also, if they were over 12, had to do an ASAM. And what else did we do? And then we had to do the treatment plan by the second appointment. So what's different here is that this place, my husband and my daughter came back home, so I went upstairs in the office to continue working. So what's different is that this place has a diagnostic assessment. You don't have to do the ASAM with the client unless they're an aorta client, if they're coming from substance issues. And what else? Or if they request it, which people don't usually request an ASAM. What else? And you have to do the treatment plan by the second appointment, obviously, still. But you don't have to do an initial contact note. You still do have to do the progress note. I've gotten better as I've gone along in my career at writing progress notes. I used to take a good half an hour to write a progress note because I would be so detailed, and my clinical supervisor would tell me, like, we're gonna have to work on your progress notes because they are good, but they are very long and too much information is in there. So I was like, okay. So I've gotten better at that because I don't put every single detail. I just try to think about, like, if I left this practice and my cases were given to another therapist, would they be able to read my progress notes, knowing exactly what I did, and be able to either pick up where I left off, or, you know, talk about to the client about how it went and what they want to do going forward? Like, would they be able to just understand it? And so that's what I try and write it for. I also try and write it with keeping in mind that I could be subpoenaed one day and a court could have access to my progress notes. So is it like, I try and keep it to where like it's good to use in court, and it's also good for another therapist to use if she or he takes over a case of mine. So I was getting some water, like I said, 100 degrees. My bag, I really like that bag. It's really cool because you could put it over your shoulder or you could put it over your back like I had it. It's like a little briefcase type backpack looking thing. I got it from Best Buy when I first started graduate school. So I've had it for almost like 8 years, and it's held up just fine. I have no issues with it still. And it's water resistant too, so I've used it in the rain. My laptop never got wet. None of my books ever got wet, so I like it. I'm back in the office. I also had, I forgot to mention, I had a virtual session at home in the office upstairs, because my in-person session for 1 o'clock turned into a virtual per the client's request. So I was like, well, I'll just stay here because I was just going to come to the office for that. So then I stayed in the office, or in the home office, for a while doing documentation, and I think I was also going through my DBT skills manual because I wanted to do some DBT on a couple of clients, and I have been doing DBT on a couple of clients. It's been going really, really well. But I also wanted to read about like starting the DBT program, like I mentioned before. But I had a virtual session, but right after that I had an in-person session, and that's why you see me on my computer. I was setting up to do my virtual session. And then after that, like the in-person client came right after that. So that's how I ended up my night at like 7:30. And I'm showing you what the office looks like. Okay, so that's all, folks. Thank you for watching my day in the life working in my private practice. And I hope to see you next time. I'm going to spend the rest of the night with my family. Bye.